We could talk about many diseases,
Možemo da govorimo o puno bolesti
many problems around us.
i dosta problema koji nas okružuju.
But there's probably one thing we can talk about that everyone will say, that's me.
Ali možemo da govorimo o jednoj temi gdje će se svi složiti da kažu to sam ja.
Now, if you've ever heard me talk, you've probably heard me talk about Greek dualism.
I ako ste me već čuli o nekim predavanjima, čuli ste da govorimo o grčkom dualizmu.
Our modern medicine comes from the Greek philosophy.
Jer moderna medicina dolazi iz grčke filozofije.
And they saw the human being as two parts.
I oni su vidjeli ljudsko telo da je iz dva dela.
Right? We have a mind.
Imamo
In Greek, that's called the psyche.
To se u grčkom zove psiha.
And we have a body.
Imamo telo.
Greek word, that's the soma.
A to je reč soma.
Now, if you put both of those words together,
Kada stavite te dve reči zajedno,
you get a medical term.
dobijete zdravstveni termin.
Psychosomatic.
Psihosomatski.
So basically, what does that mean?
U stvari, šta to znači?
Diseases that find their origin in the brain.
Bolesti koje potiču iz uma.
How many diseases are psychosomatic?
Koliko bolesti su psihosomatske bolesti?
About 90%.
Prilike 90%.
So what's that one thing almost all of us have in common?
I šta je to što mi svi imamo zajedničko?
It's going to be stress.
Biće stres.
Now, if I were with a group of people and say, how many of you never feel stress?
I kad bi postavio pitanje grupi ljudi koliko od vas nikad nosio stres,
very few people would raise their hands.
Jako malo njih će podići ruke.
Now, the reality is,
realnost je drugačija.
Everyone has some stress.
Svako ima stres.
Well, not everybody.
Ne baš svi.
If you're dead, you don't have any stress.
Ako si mrtav, nemaš nikakav stres.
But we all go through a stress response.
Ali većina nas prolazi kroz taj odgovor stresa.
Now, if I were to ask a question, is stress good or stress bad? Many people say stress is bad.
Ali kad vam postavim pitanje da li je stres dobar ili loš, većina vas će reći da je loš.
Well, stress can be very good.
Ali stres može da bude i dobra stvar.
And we will look at some of those situations.
I pogledat ćemo neke situacije.
Now, the word stress was basically started using by a doctor named Dr. Selye.
I reč stres se počela da se koristi od doktora Selyeja.
It's back in 1936.
1936.
And he was sort of like Anton Pavlov.
I on je bio kao Anton Pavlov.
He did the studies with the dogs' conditioned response.
I on je radio istraživanje na psima.
Well, Selye also used animals.
Selye je isto koristio životinje.
Exposing them to certain stressful situations.
Izlagao ih je nekim stresnim situacijama.
Bright lights,
jaka svetlost,
loud sounds,
velika buka,
extremes in temperatures.
Velike razlike u temperaturi.
All of which can produce a stressful situation.
Sve one koje te situacije proizvode stresne odgovore.
And this is what he observed with the animals that he was working with.
I ovo je ono što on zaključio sa životinjama kojima je radio.
They developed stomach ulcers.
Oni su dobili čireve u stomaku.
And overgrown adrenal glands.
I povećana nadbubrежna žlezda.
Just like us.
Kao i mi.
And we have stressors all around us.
I mi imamo stresore svugde oko nas.
The pressures of life.
Pritiske života.
It could be traffic, it could be animals, sounds, whatever.
Znači gužvu u saobraćaju, buka životinja.
I spent a lot of time in Japan.
Ja prodajem dosta vremena u Japanu.
Now, when I was growing up,
i kad sam odrastao,
if we had soup,
ako imamo supu za ručak,
we could not make noise.
Mi ne smemo da pravimo buku.
You don't let your teeth hit the spoon.
Ne dozvoljavate da se zubi vam dotaknu kašiku.
You have to eat quiet.
Morate da jedete tiho.
In Japan,
u Japanu,
they just suck it down.
Oni samo gutaju to.
And that's fine. There's no problem.
I to je u redu, nema nikakvih problema.
Except for me.
Osim za mene.
Because I wasn't raised that way.
Jer ja tako nisam odgajan.
And I cannot bring myself to eat like they eat in Japan.
Ja nikad ne mogu da stavim u situaciju da jedem kao Japanci.
Although I love the food.
Iako volim hranu.
I am a stealth eater.
Ja sam tihi konzumirač hrane.
Everyone feels stress.
Svi se osjećaju pod stresom.
Children cause stress and feel stress.
Znači, deca prouzrokuju stres i oni isto osjećaju stres.
Teenagers feel and cause stress.
Tinejdžeri osjećaju i uzrokuju stres.
Older people feel stress.
Stariji ljudi osjećaju stres.
Men and women feel stress.
Žene i muškarci osjećaju stres.
Basically, we can't escape stress in this life.
Jednostavno ne možemo da pobegnemo od stresa u našem životu.
If you own a home,
Ako ste vlasnik kuće,
it can be stressful.
to može da bude stresno.
I'm building a home back in America.
Ja sada gradim kuću svoju u Americi.
I can only be there 3 or 4 months out of the year.
Ja tamo mogu samo da budem 3 do 4 mjeseca toku godine.
Thinking that home back in Kentucky is not done with gives me stress here in Serbia.
Znači, razmišljajući o toj kući u Kentuckyu, meni daje stres, iako sam ja sad u Srbiji.
Marriage is a major stressor.
Brak je isto jedan od glavnih stresora.
Having a family can be very stressful.
Znači, imate porodicu, isto može da bude stresno.
Our environment causes lots of stress.
Naša sredina prouzrokuje dosta stresa.
Money or the lack thereof can cause stress.
Novac i nedostatak njega isto prouzrokuju stres.
Our health.
Naše zdravlje.
If we don't have good health, we're under stress.
Ako nemamo dobro zdravlje, mi smo pod stresom.
Your work can be stressful.
Vaš posao može da bude stresan.
I've worked in many places.
Ja sam radio na više mesta.
For 3 years, I worked in Hawaiian Islands.
3 godine sam radio na Havajima.
For 2 years, I worked in the Mojave Desert.
2 godine sam radio u Mojave pustinji.
My favorite place?
Moje omiljeno mesto?
The Mojave Desert.
Pustinja u Mojaviju.
I loved every minute of it.
Ja sam voleo svaki minut toga.
And it's not because the desert's all that beautiful.
Ne zato što je pustinja prelepa.
I mean, everyone would say, oh, I love to live in Hawaii.
Svi bi rekli, ja volim da živim na
In
Havajima.
Hawaii, I hated my job.
Ali na Havajima ja sam mrzeo svoj posao.
Nothing was right there.
Ništa nije bilo onako kako treba.
In the desert, I loved my work.
U pustinji sam voleo svoj posao.
It's not where you are, it's how you are.
Nije bitno gde ste, već kako se osjećate.
Now, when you're under stress, you can have some biochemical reactions in the body.
I kad ste pod stresom, vi možete imate neke biohemijske reakcije u telu,
Some physiological changes
neke fiziološke promjene
and some behavioral changes.
i neke promjene u ponašanju.
Now, we're going to look at 2 types of stress.
Gledat ćemo 2 vrste stresa.
There is acute stress.
Postoji akutni stres
Now, in today's society, especially with young people,
i u današnjem društvu, pogotovo sa mladima,
they love the acute stress,
oni vole akutni stres,
like bungee jumping.
kao skakanje s konopcem.
That gives you an exciting feeling,
To vam daje neki osjećaj uzbuđenja,
which is fine in small doses.
što je u redu u nekim malim dozama,
But if they kept doing it over and over again,
ali ako čine to stalno,
it could cause some exhaustion. It just wears you out.
to može da vas dovodi do nekog umora i da vas istroši,
But if you kept doing it,
ali ako nastavite to da radite,
you'd get careless.
može nezgoda da se desi,
That leads to accidents.
što dolazi do nekih udesa.
So it can be good in small doses.
Znači, može da bude dobro u malim dozama
And it's basically there for a purpose.
i tu je sa ciljem.
It's part of the sympathetic nervous system.
To je deo simpatetičnog nervnog sistema.
We have a name for it.
Mi imamo ime za to.
If you have a problem, let's say with a bear,
Ajde, evo, recimo da imate neki problem. Evo, uzet ćemo primjer medveda.
you got 2 choices.
Imate 2 izbora.
You can fight it
Možete se borite s njim
or you can run from it.
ili da pobegnete od njega.
The sympathetic nervous system is our fight or flight reaction.
Znači, taj simpatetični nervni sistem nam daje reakciju da se borimo ili da bežimo.
Now, when we go into that system,
Kad uđemo u taj sistem,
first we're going to have some biochemical reaction.
imat ćemo neke biohemijske reakcije.
Our adrenals are going to put out some adrenaline.
Znači, nadbubrežne žleze će lučiti adrenalin.
Now, that does a couple of things.
To čini par stvari.
It makes another biochemical reaction that we produce more coagulants.
Znači, ta biohemijska reakcija čini da mi proizvedemo više supstanci za zgrušavanje krvi.
So if you're injured, you don't bleed to death.
Znači, ako se povredite, vi nećete skvariti.
But it's also going to have some physiological effects.
Ali ona će imati druge fiziološke uticaje.
So the adrenals put out adrenaline.
Znači, nadbubrежne žlezde luče adrenalin
causing our eyes to dilate,
i šire vaše zenice,
see better.
da bolje vidite,
We breathe faster.
brže dišemo,
Our heart beats faster.
naše srce kuca brže,
Our blood goes from our skin to our muscles.
naša krv ide iz kože u mišiće,
Our hair stands on end.
naše dlake se dignu,
Our blood pressure goes up.
naš pritisak se podigne,
Another biochemical reaction,
još jedna biohemijska reakcija,
all of our glycogen becomes glucose.
sav naš glikogen postaje glukoza.
All this gives you energy,
Sve vam to daje energiju,
gives you power,
daje vam snagu.
and sometimes we need it.
Ponekad nam je to i potrebno.
A young girl just got home to her family's home.
Jedna mlada devojčica je baš došla kod kući, kod svoje
Her
porodice
father was working in the garage under a car.
i otac je radio u garaži ispod auta
The jack slipped.
i dizalica je pala
The car fell in his chest.
i auto je pao na njegov grudni koš.
She saw what happens.
Ona je videla šta se desilo.
She runs in
Otrčala je
and she picks that BMW off of her father.
i ona je podigla taj BMW na kojem je bio njen otac.
That's not normal.
To nije normalno.
That's the sympathetic nervous system going to work.
To je simpatetični nervni sistem u akciji.
Okay? When we're in this situation, we can also go through some behavioral changes.
Kad smo u takvoj situaciji, mi možemo da očekujemo i neke promjene u ponašanju.
We can become angry.
Možemo da budemo ljuti
We become short-term depressed.
ili imamo kratkotrajnu depresiju.
It can cause some anxiety.
Može da nas učini da se uzbudimo previše.
But for the sake of this little talk, I want to just look for a moment at the anger thing.
Ali sad ćemo malo da se fokusiramo na ljutnju.
See, it's one thing to tell you what's going wrong.
Ali jedna je stvar da vam kažem šta nije u redu.
It's more important to tell you what can you do in this situation.
Važnije je da vam kažem šta možete da učinite u takvoj situaciji.
So, you're angry.
Znači, vi ste ljuti.
Now, if you're angry at somebody and they are there,
I ako ste ljuti na nekog, on je tu prisutan,
usually it becomes an anger of words.
obično to postane deo ljutih reči.
Well, here's a couple of suggestions.
Evo par saveta.
When you get really mad,
Ako ste stvarno ljuti,
excuse yourself.
znači izgovorite se,
Take time to cool down.
uzmite vreme da se smirite i opustite.
We used to say count to 10.
Nekada smo govorili broj do 10.
And that's not a bad idea.
I to nije loša ideja.
We've got to cool down or it's going to get really hot.
Moramo da se smirimo da ne bi se naljutili.
Another thing you can do,
Još jednu stvar koju možete učinite,
shut your mouth.
zatvorite usta.
It takes two people to argue.
Potrebno je dve osobe za svađu.
And the other person will either keep on talking to the wind or they'll stop arguing too.
I ova jedna osoba će ili nastaviti da razgovara u vazduh.
If they keep on talking to the wind,
Ako nastave da razgovaraju u vazduh,
do what this fellow's going to do.
uradi šta ovaj čovjek radi.
This is a stressful situation,
Ovo je stresna situacija,
but he's not stressed.
ali on nije pod stresom.
Why?
Zašto?
He's not there.
On nije tamo.
In his mind, he's out fishing somewhere.
U svom umu on je negde otišao na pecanje.
You've got to let it out of your mind.
Morate da to izvadite iz vašeg uma.
But there's another thing that's very important.
Postoji još nešto što je važno.
When something has offended you,
Kad te nešto povredilo,
you got to talk about it.
moraš da razgovaraš.
Not yell about it.
Ne da vičete.
You got to get it out right away.
Morate odmah da kažete nekome.
If you leave these negative emotions inside,
Ako ostavite te negativne emocije u sebi,
it reminds me of something that happened on May the 19th, 1980.
podsjeća me na nešto što se desilo 19. maja 1980.
This mountain is called Mount St. Helens.
Ova planina se zove Sveta Helena.
For days, it had been building up pressure.
I danima se skupljao pritisak u njoj.
You could see it
Vi možete da
actually
vidite
bulging.
kako se to sve bubrilo.
They told the people all around, get out of here.
Rekli su ljudima da se sklone odatle.
Most of them did.
I većina je to učinila.
Some of them did not.
Neki nisu.
And on May the 19th,
I 19. maja
it exploded.
eksplodiralo je.
And all those people who didn't get out are dead.
I svi ljudi koji nisu otišli su umrli.
It's the same thing with the human body.
Isto i sa ljudskim telom.
If you have an infection under your skin,
Ako imate infekciju ispod kože,
you got some bacteria,
imate bakterije,
white blood cells
bela krvna zrnca,
congregate, starts to swell.
pokušava da otiče polako.
Now, if you do not take care of this,
I ako se ne pobrinete o tome,
it's going to explode.
to će da eksplodira.
And that's far worse than the original problem.
I to je puno gore nego vaš originalni problem.
It's the same thing with emotional things.
Isto je sa emocionalnim stvarima.
You hold it inside,
Ako držite unutra,
it's going to come and get you one of these days.
doći će vam glave jednog dana.
I knew a man when I was in the military.
Znao sam čoveka koji je bio u vojsci.
He had a agreement with his wife.
Imao je dogovor sa svojim suprugom.
If she had a problem with him,
Ako on ima neki problem sa njim,
when he got home from work,
kad bi došao kući sa posla,
the coffee pot would be on the table.
šoljica kafe bi bila na stolu.
That was her sign, we need to talk.
To je bio njen znak da mi moramo da razgovaramo.
And that's a good thing to do.
I to je dobra stvar koja treba da se učini.
There is an American ambassador.
Postoje američki ambasador.
He went to a social gathering with his wife.
Otišao na jedan društveni skup sa svojom ženom.
And he had a great time.
I imao je dobro vreme provedeno
But
tamo.
on the way home,
Ali na putu kući,
his wife was just sitting there. She was mad.
njegova žena je samo sedela i bila je ljuta.
And he says, honey, what's wrong?
Kaže, draga, šta je problem?
She says, I can't believe how that lady talked to you.
Ja ne mogu da verujem kako ova žena razgovarala sa tobom.
And he said, what lady?
A on je rekao, koja žena?
He practices two core principles.
On praktikuje dva glavna principa.
One, unconditional love.
Prvi je neuslovna ljubav.
The second one,
Drugi,
instant forgiveness.
instantni opraštaj.
And if you can get those two things into your mind,
I ako te dve stvari možete da stavite u vaš
you won't feel stressed.
nećete se osjećati pod stresom.
But you've got to learn to do a few things.
Ali mora da naučite par stvari.
You need to learn to forgive others.
Mora da naučite da opraštate drugima.
There's a story I tell quite often.
Postoje priče koje ja često govorim.
You may have already heard this story.
Možda ste i već i čuli.
Story of 4 children.
Priča o 4 dece.
Matter of fact, it was my family.
To je u stvari bila moja porodica.
That's me.
Ovo sam ja.
And our father's taking the picture.
I naš otac je uslikao u sliku.
Now my big sister, she's trying to hold us together.
Znači, naša starija sestra pokušava da nas sve tako drži zajedno.
See right over here?
Vidite ovde?
That's her hand holding me.
Ovo je njena ruka koja nas drži.
The other hand's holding my sister Linda.
A ova s druge strane drži moju sestru Lindu.
Always trying to hold us together.
Stalno je pokušala da nas drži zajedno.
Because growing up in my home was stressful.
I odrastati u mome domu je bilo jako stresno.
We received a lot of abuse
Dobili smo dosta maltretiranja
from our father.
od našeg oca.
Mother, she was an angel.
Majka je bila anđeo,
But that damage that was done stays with you.
ali ta oštećenja koja smo dobili, to ostaje sa vama.
And that damage stayed inside of my sister.
I to je sve ostalo u moje sestri.
Because she was the oldest.
Zato što ona je bila najstarija.
And she felt responsible.
I ona je imala jednu vrstu odgovornosti.
And in July 2015,
I u julu 2015.
my sister died.
moja sestra umrla.
She shouldn't have died.
Ona nije trebala da umre.
No one in our family dies that young.
Niko u našim porodicama ne umire tako mlad.
But it was that anger that was still inside.
Ali ta ljutnja koju je ona imala u sebi.
It was the hardest thing that's ever happened to me.
To je najteža stvar koja mi se desila.
The pain is indescribable.
Bol ja ne mogu da vam opišem.
And I remember after her funeral,
I posle njene sahrane,
I felt like I just got to go somewhere by myself and cry.
osjećao sam se da moram da odem negde i da plačem.
But guys don't cry.
Ali muškarci ne plaču.
But we should.
Ali mi bi trebali.
When you cry,
Kada plačete,
tears contain stress hormones.
suze sadrže hormone stresa.
It's a way to get rid of all of this stress,
To je način kako da se otarasite stresa.
all of this anger that we feel.
Sva ta ljutnja koju osjećamo.
You know, the American Civil War was a terrible war.
Američki građanski rat je bio jedna loša stvar.
Much animosity, much hatred.
Puno mržnje se tu desilo.
But 75 years after that war, they got together.
Ali 75 godina posle tog rata ljudi su se skupili,
Those still alive,
oni dalje koji su bili živi,
and shook hands.
i rukovali su se.
If you hold anger inside of you,
A ako držiš ljutnju u sebi,
it's like you drinking poison,
to je kao da vi pijete otrov
hoping the other person will die.
i nadate se da će druga osoba da umre.
We've got to forgive others.
Moramo da oprostimo drugima.
We've got to forgive ourselves.
Moramo da oprostimo sebi.
This guilt that we feel,
Ta krivnja koju osjećamo,
these sorrows that we feel,
tuge koje osjećamo,
all of this thing can cause stress in the body.
sve to može da prouzrokuje stres u našem telu.
It can cause tension headaches,
Može da prouzrokuje glavobolje,
cause pain in the neck, shoulders, and back.
bol u vratu, ramenima i leđima,
It can cause pain in the jaws
bol u vilici,
from those muscles that are tightened up because of the anger.
mišići koji se stežu zbog ljutnje.
Now, we can fix some of this.
Mi možemo to da popravimo.
Simple massages.
Jednostavna masaža,
Have someone just rub your neck and your back.
neka vam neko izmasira vrat malo.
Do some exercise that releases tension in your neck and your shoulders.
Radite neke fizičke vežbe koje će opustiti vaš vrat i leđe.
These things can work very nicely.
One mogu dosta dobro da pomognu.
All right, so those are things that are going to happen in your muscles.
Ovo su stvari koje će se desiti oko mišića.
You can have digestive system problems.
Znači, možete da imate probleme sa varenjem,
Have high stomach acid.
znači visoku kiselinu u stomaku,
You can produce more flatulence.
možete da imate više gasova,
You can get diarrhea.
možete da imate proliv
Or you can get the other side, that's constipation.
ili opstipaciju.
So if you are under stress,
I ako ste pod stresom,
don't eat
nemojte da jedete,
because you cannot digest when you're under stress.
jer vi ne možete da dobro varite kad ste pod stresom.
Never eat when you are angry.
Nemojte nikada da jedete kad ste ljuti.
I remember what I had for breakfast on November the 5th, 1979.
Ja se upravo sećam šta sam imao 5. novembra 1979.
It's when I heard that my father died.
To je kad sam čuo da je moj otac umro.
I was just ready to eat.
Ja sam bio spreman da jedem
And my body says, don't do that.
i telo je reklo nemoj to da učiniš
I dumped it out.
i ja sam ga bacio.
Never work and eat at the same time.
Nemojte da radite i da jedete u isto vreme.
And there's another thing you can do about stress.
I još jednu stvar možete da učinite što se tiče stresa.
You're in a stressful situation.
Ako ste pod stresnom situacijom,
Look at it from a different perspective.
pogledajte iz druge perspektive.
All right, you see this picture here.
Vidite ovu sliku.
This guy sitting on a high wall.
Ovaj dečak koji sedi na visokom zidu,
This guy hanging from a pipe.
a ovaj visi sa cevi.
Looks stressful to me.
Meni izgleda jako stresno.
Now let's look at it from a different perspective.
Hajmo sad da pogledamo iz druge perspektive.
Notice how everything changes.
Pogledajte kako se sve menja.
Not long ago, there was an airline accident.
Ne tako davno bila je jedna vazdušna nesreća.
You've all heard about it.
Svi ste čuli za nju.
Ethiopian Airlines.
Etiopski avion.
And one man missed the flight
I jedan čovjek je zakasnio na let.
by 2 minutes.
2 minuta.
Do you think he felt stressed?
Da li mislite da on bio pod stresom?
He felt greatly stressed.
On je bio pod velikim stresom.
There he is. There's Antonius right now.
Evo, tu je Antonio, ovo je njegova slika.
First class ticket.
Imao je kartu za prvu klasu.
Missed the flight.
Izgubio je let.
Very stressed out
Jako je bio pod stresnom situacijom.
until he heard the news.
Dok nije čuo vest.
That airliner, shortly after it took off, it went down.
Znači, taj avion čim je poleteo, odmah je pao.
And the rest of the passengers were carried away in plastic bags.
I ostatak putnika je bio odnet u plastičnim kesama.
You got to look at it in a different way.
Mora da pogledate iz drugog ugla.
Getting upset changes nothing.
Kada ste ljuti, neće to ništa promeniti.
I was flying out of Zagreb back to America a few years ago.
Pre par godina sam leteo iz Zagreba za Ameriku.
Zagreb, Amsterdam, United States.
Znači Zagreb, Amsterdam i Sjedinjene Države.
Yeah, I've done it a number of times.
Više puta sam to činio.
I get to the airport in Zagreb.
I došao sam na aerodrom u Zagrebu.
I'm checked through to Amsterdam.
I čekirali su me do Amsterdama.
I said, I'm going to America.
Ja sam rekao, ja idem za Ameriku.
She says, that's all I can do for you here.
Kaže, ovo je sve što mogu da učinim za tebe.
I got 1 hour in Amsterdam.
Kaže, imam samo 1 sat u Amsterdamu.
That's all I can do.
Kaže, to je sve što mogu da učinim.
I said, okay.
Kaže, ok.
See, when things like this happen,
Vidite, kada ovakve stvari se dese,
I don't look at it in a negative way.
ja ne gledam iz negativnog ugla.
I want you to remember something.
Hoću nešto da zapamtite.
All things work together for good.
Sve ide na dobro.
If you're living the right type of life.
Ako živite pravi način života,
So when these things happen to me,
i kad se ove stvari dese meni,
I get excited.
ja se uzbudim.
What's going to happen?
Šta će se desiti?
When I get to Amsterdam,
Kad sam došao u Amsterdam,
my flight's gone.
moj let je odleteo,
My vegetarian meal is gone.
moj vegetarijanski obrok je odleteo,
That's what bothers me the most.
to me najviše sekiralo.
So I go to a help desk.
I onda sam otišao na štand za pomoć da mi
I
pomogu.
always fly Delta Airlines.
I ja uvek letim Delta Airlinesom.
And this lady worked for an hour to help me.
I ova gospođa je radila satima da mi nađe let, da mi pomogne.
There was an airline pilot strike.
Postoje štrajk pilota.
Very few planes were flying.
Samo nekoliko leteva je imalo.
And she finally said, okay, there's a flight leaving at 5 o'clock to Atlanta.
I kaže, postoji let koji odlazi u 5 sati popodne za Atlantu.
She said, I'll give you a ticket for that flight.
Kaže, ja ću ti dati kartu za taj let,
But I can't give you a boarding pass.
ali ne mogu ti dam kartu da se ukrcaš.
They are overbooked.
Oni su prebukirani.
Go to the gate,
Idi na kapiju,
show them the ticket,
pokaži im kartu
and do what they say.
i učini što ti budu rekli.
I said, I can do that.
Kaže, ja to mogu da učinim.
So I go there and I show them the ticket.
Ja sam otišao tamo, pokazao sam im kartu.
They say, we're overbooked.
Prebukirani smo.
Every seat is sold.
Svako mesto je popunjeno.
But maybe someone won't show up.
Ali možda se neko neće pojaviti.
Just go over there, sit down and wait.
I samo idi tamo i sedi i čekaj.
I says, good to go.
Ja sam rekao, ok.
Okay, so everyone gets on the airplane.
I svi su se ukrcali na avion.
So there I am sitting all by myself.
I ovde ja sedim sam.
But over there, there's a crowd of people, 20 people standing.
Ali tamo malo dalje od mene bilo je neki 20-ak ljudi koji su stajali.
They're in the same situation as me.
Oni su u istoj situaciji u kojoj sam ja.
So I go over there and join them.
I ja sam otišao tamo i pridružio se.
One man is very upset.
Jedan je bio jako ljut.
Matter of fact, more than one.
U stvari, bilo ih i više.
But this one I know because he's an American.
Ali ja znam njega jer on je bio Amerikanac.
And he is just complaining up and down the line.
I on se samo žali i ide, šeta se gore dole.
I said, sir, relax.
I on kaže, gospodine, opustite se.
All things work together for good.
Sve ide na dobro.
Well, he didn't believe that.
On nije verovao u to.
So we're waiting.
I onda smo čekali.
And then I hear a name called.
I onda sam čuo ime koje me pozvalo.
My name.
Moje ime.
I walk up.
Ja sam došao dotle.
They hand me a boarding pass.
I dali su mi kartu da se ukrcam.
The only person.
Jedina osoba.
I walk on the airplane like I'm in a dream.
I ja hodam ka avionu kao da sam u sanjam.
And rather than point me to the very end of the airplane,
I mjesto da me usmere ka kraju aviona,
they point me in the other direction.
oni su me usmerili u drugome smeru.
You ever flown first class?
Da li ste nekad leteli prvom klasom?
What a way to fly across the Atlantic Ocean.
Kakav način samo da putujete preko Atlantskog okeana.
Wonderful experience.
Predivno iskustvo.
That other man was under acute stress.
Ovaj drugi čovjek je bio pod akutnim stresom.
I looked at it from a different perspective.
I ja gledam iz druge perspektive.
But acute stress is just for a short time.
Ali akutni stres je samo kratko vreme.
That's a sympathetic nervous system.
To je simpatetični nervni sistem.
But there's another system.
Ali postoji još jedan sistem.
That is the parasympathetic nervous system.
To je parasimpatetični nervni sistem.
That turns off the sympathetic nervous system.
On isključuje ovaj drugi simpatetični nervni sistem.
The first system, fight or flight.
Prvi je bori se ili beži.
The second system,
Drugi sistem,
rest and digest.
znači opusti se i stvari.
That's what you want to do.
To je ono što vi želite.
Now, how can you get into the parasympathetic nervous system?
Znači, kako vi možete da budete u tom parasimpatetičnom nervnom sistemu?
There's a natural reaction when you get out of a stressful situation.
Postoji prirodna reakcija kada ste u stresnoj situaciji.
Almost all of us do it.
I svima nam se to desi.
Taking that deep breath,
Znači, uzmete taj duboki dah.
letting out those stress hormones.
Da pustite te hormone stresa.
What does that do?
Šta to čini?
It turns off the sympathetic nervous system.
Ono isključuje taj simpatetični nervni sistem.
That's the acute stress.
To je akutni stres.
But there's a second type of stress,
Ali postoji još jedan vrsta stresa.
and it's the most dangerous.
I to je možda i najopasniji.
That is chronic stress.
To je hronični stres.
This is stress that we get used to.
To je stres na koji se mi naviknemo.
We're so used to it that we don't even recognize the signs of acute stress or chronic stress.
Toliko smo se navikli da mi ne možemo više da prepoznamo znakove tog stresa.
At first it might feel a little bit hopeless,
U početku malo izgleda beznadežno,
but then hopeless becomes our normal.
ali onda ta beznadežnost postaje naša norma.
You do not want hopeless to be your normal.
Vi ne želite ta beznadežnost da postane na vaša norma.
It leads to suicide,
To vodi do samoubistva,
leads to violence,
vodi do nasilja
and many of our chronic diseases.
i do puno drugih kroničnih bolesti.
But other things are going to happen too.
Ali druge stvari će se desiti.
We're going to start feeling other symptoms.
Osjetit ćemo druge simptome.
Autoimmune diseases
Autoimune bolesti
may be coming from chronic stressful situation.
koje možda dolaze do hroničnih stresnih
Inflammation.
situacija. Upala,
Mental illness.
mentalne bolesti.
There's many different things that can be causing our diseases coming from chronic stress.
Postoji razna vrsta drugih bolesti koji mogu da prouzrokuju hronične bolesti, a uzrok je hroničan stres.
There's stress of the loss of a loved one.
Postoji stres kad izgubimo voljene.
If a person is under stress from that,
Kada je osoba pod takvim stresom,
it's going to raise their blood pressure,
povisit će njihov krvni pritisak,
raise their pulse rate.
povisit će njihov puls,
It's going to affect their immune system.
uticat će na njihov imunni sistem,
It's going to cause more coagulants to be produced in the body,
znači više će se ugrušaka stvarati u telu,
which means you're going to form more clots.
i što znači da ćete formirati ugruške u telu.
All of those things together lead to the heart attack.
Sve to vodi do srčanog udara.
Okay? Some other problems with the chronic stress.
Još neki problemi hroničnog stresa.
We just feel overwhelmed.
Osjećamo se preopterećenima.
Why do we feel overwhelmed?
Zašto smo preopterećeni i zatrpani?
Often it's our own fault.
Obično je naša greška.
We take too much upon ourselves.
Previše uzmemo na sebe.
We should know our limits
Trebali bi da znamo naša ograničenja
and don't exceed them.
i ne bi trebali da pređemo njih.
Now, in this part of the country, I see lots of sheep.
Znači, u ovom delu zemlje ja vidim dosta ovaca
There's always a shepherd with them.
i uvijek je neki pastir sa njima.
Sometimes there's some dogs with them.
Nekada su i neki psi s njima.
But there's something else that people use in other parts of the world.
Ali u drugim delovima sveta ljudi nešto drugo koriste.
The United States, many of them use llamas.
U Sjedinim državama i drugim zemljama oni koriste lame
They're very good at herding sheep.
i oni su jako dobri u čuvanju ovaca.
So one day a shepherd took his sheep up into the mountains,
Znači, jednog dana pastir je odveo svoje ovce u planinu,
had a llama,
imao je lamu,
500 sheep,
500 ovaca,
let them go, and he went back down the mountain.
on ih je pustio i sišao sa planine.
At the end of the summer, he goes back up to get his sheep.
Kad je prošlo leto, on se vratio da pokupi svoje ovce.
There's no longer 500 sheep.
Sad više nije bilo 500 ovaca.
There's 250 sheep.
Sad ih je bilo samo 250.
What was the problem?
U čemu je bio problem?
The llama knows what it can do.
Lama zna šta može da učini.
As soon as that shepherd left,
Kad je taj pastir otišao,
the llama separated the flock.
lama je razgraničilo svoje to stado
250 sheep just wandered off,
i 250 ovaca samo otišlo,
but it took good care of 250 sheep.
ali se pobrinulo za ostatak od 250 ovaca.
Know your limits.
Znaj svoje granice.
Learn to manage your time effectively.
Naučite da rukujete sa vremenom pažljivo.
I had 3 sisters.
Ja sam imao 3 sestre.
I told you about Kathy who died.
Ja sam govorio o Keti koja umrla.
She and the sister just below me
Sestra i ova mlađa sestra,
can do more in one day than I can do in a week.
oni mogu da učine puno više nego ja što mogu za nedelju
They're
dana.
good time managers.
Oni jako dobro rukovode sa vremenom.
If you're not a good time manager,
Ako ne rukovodiš dobro sa vremenom,
nothing ever gets done.
ništa se neće završiti.
Oh, you can work on a job,
Ili možda radite na poslu,
but before long you see another job that needs to get done.
ali onda vidite neki drugi posao koji mora da se završi.
So you leave the first one 90% finished
I onda ostavite ovaj posao koji ste započeli na 90%
until soon you got a whole house full of 10% left to do jobs.
i onda vam je ostala puna kuća poslova koji zahtevaju 10%.
That causes stress.
To prouzrokuje stres.
That's the condition of my house back in America right now.
U takvim uslovima je moja kuća u Americi.
So here's what you need to do.
I evo šta treba da učinite.
Every night, make a list
I svako večer napravite listu.
of the things that need to get done.
Stvari koje treba da završite.
Okay? And then what you want to do is you want to put them into priorities.
I hoćete da ih prioritizujete, šta je glavno.
Put a number in front of them. This is my first priority tomorrow.
Znači, stavite broj, kaže, ovo je prva stvar koju moram da učinim.
And then rewrite the list so it's in order.
I napišite ponovo listu da bude u redu.
So now you're going to do the first thing in your list.
I sad ću raditi prvu stvar na toj listi.
And you do not cross it off until it is completely done.
I vi je nećete predstavljati sve dok ona nije završena.
Then you go to the second thing in your list.
Onda idete na drugu stvar na toj listi.
And you do not cross it off until it is completely done.
I vi ne predstavljate dok ona ne bude kompletno gotova.
You do that.
I kad to učinite,
It's going to be a whole different life for you.
bit će kompletno drugi život za vas.
But you've got to do that the night before.
Ali ovo mora da uradite noć pre toga.
Another cause of chronic stress is an unhappy marriage.
Još jedan problem hroničnog stresa je nesrećni brak.
We've already talked about that a little bit.
Već smo o tome malo govorili.
Don't enter into the argument.
Nemojte da se svađate.
Be quick to hear,
Budite brzi da čujete
slow to speak, slow to anger.
i spori da odgovarate i spori da se ljutite.
We can have dysfunctional families.
Možemo da imamo probleme porodične.
That's what I grew up in.
U takvim sredini sam ja odrastao.
Very stressful childhood.
Jako stresno detinjstvo.
Financial problems can be a stressor, chronic stress.
Finansijski problemi mogu da budu hronični stres.
Too much money
Previše novca.
and even poverty can cause stress.
I siromaštvo možda prouzrokuje stres.
There's another one though.
Evo, postoji još jedan.
I find so many people in this stress.
Ja vidim da se puno ljudi stresiraju oko ovoga.
A job going nowhere.
Posao koji vas ne vodi nigde.
There's a little story.
Evo jedne priče.
It's about a nail.
Priča o jednom ekseru.
If you've ever had a horse, you've got shoes on the horse.
I ako ste nekada imali potkovice, konji imaju potkovice.
If you lose a nail,
Ako izgubite ekser,
you might lose the shoe.
vi ćete možda izgubiti potkovicu.
If you lose the shoe,
Ako izgubite potkovicu,
the horse might be out of condition, out of commission.
možda konj više neće biti u funkciji.
If you lose the horse, then the rider can't ride the horse.
I ako izgubite konja, nemate jahača koji će ga jaše.
And if he can't ride the horse, you might lose the battle that you were getting ready to fight.
I ako nemate jahača koji će da jaše u bitci, vi ćete možda izgubiti bitku.
And if you lose the battle,
I ako izgubite bitku,
you might lose the war.
možda izgubite rat.
Now, this whole scenario,
Znači, ovo je ceo scenario.
where is the problem?
Gde je problem?
Losing that nail.
Gubitak tog eksera.
So it's how you look at your job.
Način kako gledate na vaš posao,
If you're the nail,
ako ste vi ekser,
you be the very best nail that you can be.
budi najbolji ekser koji možeš da budeš.
You are important.
Vi ste važni.
Some people, it's how they look at their jobs.
Neki ljudi, u zavisnosti kako sagledavaju svoj život
This man is laying bricks.
i svoj posao, znači ova je osoba zida s ciglama,
He is bored.
njemu je dosadno.
But this one, he's building a wall.
ali ovaj gradi zid.
Yeah, he feels like he's got a sense of accomplishment.
On ima osjećaj ispunjenosti.
But this one,
Ali ovaj,
he's building a great hospital.
kaže, on zida neku veliku bolnicu.
He feels like he's doing something vitally important.
On ima osjećaj da on radi nešto što je vitalnog značaja.
It's how we look at the situation.
Način na koji gledamo situacije.
If you try something, you risk failure.
Ako vi pokušate nešto, vi rizikujete da ne uspete.
This is Thomas Edison,
Ovo je Thomas Edison,
the man who perfected for commercial use a light bulb.
čovjek koji je usavršio za komercijalne svrhe
How many
sijalicu.
times did he try?
Koliko puta je on probao?
9,999 times.
9099 puta.
Failure, failure, failure.
Nije uspeo, sve je propalo bilo.
But he didn't look at it that way.
Ali on nije na taj način to gledao.
He says, I have found 9,999 ways that don't work.
Ja sam našao 9099 načina na koje ona ne radi.
But at 10,000,
Ali 10.000 put,
because he didn't give up,
zato što nije odustao,
finally got it.
konačno je shvatio.
But when he was a child,
Ali kad je bio dete,
his teachers told him something.
njegovi nastavnici su mu rekli,
You were too stupid to learn anything.
ti si previše glup da bi bilo šta naučio.
He didn't believe it.
On nije u to verovao
And he became a great man.
i postao je veliki čovjek.
You've all heard of Beethoven,
Čuli ste za Beethovena,
okay? He was a great composer.
bio je veliki kompozitor,
But when he was a student,
ali kad je bio student,
his teachers told him, you are hopeless as a composer.
njegovi nastavnici su mu rekli da si ti beznadežan slučaj za kompozitora.
I bet you can't name any of his teachers.
Ja sam siguran da vi ne možete da imenujete nikog od njegovih nastavnika.
Last 5 compositions, his last 5 symphonies,
Zadnjih 5 simfonija,
totally deaf.
kompletno glup bio.
And then there's the great basketball player in America, Michael Jordan.
I onda jedan veliki košarkaš, Michael Jordan,
He's very famous,
on je jako poznat,
but he lost 300 games.
ali on izgubio 300 utakmica.
He missed 9,000 baskets.
On je promašio 9000 koševa
And in many games,
i u dosta utakmica.
when it came down to the last few seconds,
I kad je bilo onako par sekunda pred kraj
he was
utakmice,
past the ball to take the last shot.
njemu bi dali loptu da šutne zadnji šut.
26 times he missed.
26 puta on je promašio.
When he was in high school,
Kad je bio u srednjoj školi,
he was dropped from his high school basketball team.
on se nije kvalifikovao da uđe u košarkaški tim.
Those who try risk failure.
Oni koji pokušavaju, oni rizikuju da ne uspeju.
Those who don't try guarantee it.
Oni koji ne pokušaju, njima je to zagarantovano.
If you have a thought,
Ako
Do
imate
it.
misao, učinite.
if you want to be somebody, be that person.
Ako želite neko da budete ta osoba.
Kohei Uchimura,
Kohi Uchimura,
he's a great Olympic athlete.
on je veliki olimpijac,
Okay. Now, he's from Japan,
on je iz Japana.
and they write in some of their characters are kanji characters.
I oni pišu sa kanji karakterima,
They're pictures.
to su slike,
And this is the word for crisis.
i ovo je reč za krizu.
But it's made up of 2 pictures.
Ali ona je sastavljena od 2 slike.
If you take the first picture and drop it down and add another picture to it,
I ako spustite jednu sliku i dodate drugu,
you get the word for danger.
dobijete reč opasnost.
But if you take the second character
Ali ako uzmete drugi karakter
and drop it down,
i njega spustite dole,
you've got the Japanese and Chinese word for opportunity.
onda dobijete japansku i kinesku reč za mogućnost.
You may fail.
Vi možda ne uspete,
Get up and go forward.
ustanite i idite napred.
If you stay down,
Ako
you're a
ostanete
failure.
dole
And it doesn't matter how old you are.
i vi nećete uspjeti, nije bitno koliko ste stari.
I mean, Michelangelo, when he painted the Sistine Chapel, was in his 70s.
Kad je Michelangelo naslikao Sikstinsku kapelu,
Worry is a form of chronic stress.
briga je jedna vrsta hroničnog stresa.
Now, what is worry?
Šta je briga?
It's assuming what's going to happen.
Znači, to pretpostavljate šta će se desiti.
Here's a woman.
Evo je žena,
Looks like she's worrying to me.
ona mi izgleda je zabrinuta.
Why?
Zašto?
Well, it's 6 o'clock.
6 sati je.
Where's my husband?
Gde je moj suprug?
Why hasn't he called me?
Zašto nije zvao?
Oh, he's been fired from his job.
Mora da je dobio otkaz na poslu.
What are we going to do?
Šta ćemo da radimo sada?
Or maybe his car broke down on the way home.
Ili mu se možda auto pokvario na putu
That's
kući.
going to cost money.
To će koštati skupo.
No, he's been in an accident.
Ne, bio u saobraćajnoj nezgodi.
That's not good.
To nije dobro.
He's been in a terrible accident.
Bio je u velikoj saobraćajnoj nezgodi.
My husband's dead.
Moj suprug je mrtav.
He's laying by himself in a hospital dead.
On leži sam u bolnici mrtav.
I'm going to have to start calling the whole family.
Morat ću da pozovem celu porodicu.
I'm going to have to arrange for his funeral.
Morat ću da organizujem njegovu sahranu.
We're going to lose our house.
Skupit ćemo kuću.
And then her husband walks in.
I onda njen suprug došao.
95% of the things you worry about are never going to happen.
95% stvari o kojima brinete se nikada neće desiti.
So why worry?
Zašto briga onda?
Here's another key.
Evo još jedan ključ.
Live one day at a time.
Živite za jedan dan.
You've only got today.
Vi imate samo danas.
Tomorrow,
Sutra
it's not yours.
nije vaše.
You have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow.
Vi ne znate šta će se desiti sutra.
Yesterday, it's over.
Juče je gotovo.
You can't change what happened yesterday.
Ne možete da promenite šta se desilo juče.
Sometimes when we have chronic stress, we feel tired all the time.
Kad smo pod hroničnim stresom, osjećamo se umorni.
So what do?
Šta činimo?
We take something to give us false energy.
Nešto nam daje lažnu energiju.
Caffeine, sugar,
Kofein, šećer,
increase stress hormones.
povećava hormone stresa.
You got to get away from these things.
Morate toga da se otarasite.
There's another major stressor that we have.
Postoji još jedan veliki stresor,
Television.
televizija.
And of course now it's our computers too.
Ali sad su to i kompjuter isto.
And it starts with children.
I to počinje sa decom još.
The stressful things that they watch every day, these video games.
Stresne situacije u kojima se oni izlažu kroz video igre.
They did an experiment with nurses.
Radili su jedno istraživanje sa medicinskim sestrama.
Got a large group together.
Imali su veliku grupu ljudi.
Took urine samples.
Uzeli su njihove mokraće, test.
You find stress hormones in urine.
I vi nalazite hormone stresa u mokraći.
Then they showed them a movie.
Onda su im pokazali jedan film.
Right in the middle of the movie,
I u toku filma
they took another urine sample.
opet su uzeli uzorak mokraće.
They found the stress hormones had gone up.
Našli su hormone stresa tamo.
A couple of hours after the movie,
I par sati posle filma
another urine sample.
opet su uzeli uzorak mokraće.
Stress hormones were still elevated.
Hormoni stresa su i dalje bili povišeni.
Few days later,
Par dana kasnije,
second movie.
drugi film.
This was a horror movie.
Ovo je bio horror film.
Okay? Same urine samples.
Isti uzorci mokraće.
In the middle of the movie,
U toku filma
the stress hormones were very, very high.
hormoni stresa su bili jako povišeni.
A few hours after the movie,
Par sati posle filma
they remained elevated.
i dalje su ostali povišeni.
A few days later,
Par dana kasnije,
third movie.
treći film.
This was a comedy.
Ovo je bila komedija.
Now you would think that would bring stress hormones down.
Vi ćete misliti da bi ovo snizilo hormone stresa.
Even for them, it raised their stress hormones.
Čak je i za njih povisilo hormone stresa.
And they remained elevated.
I oni su ostali povišeni.
And then, a few days later, a fourth film.
I posle par dana su im pustili četvrti film.
This was a documentary.
Ovo je bio dokumentarac.
Just pictures of sceneries that passed by as a train was going by.
To su bile slike prirode dok voz vozi.
What did the stress hormones do?
Šta su hormoni stresa tada učinili?
They went down.
Oni su se snizili.
And after the movie,
I posle filma,
the stress hormones remained low.
znači nivo stresa su ostali niži.
Nature.
Priroda.
So if you feel stress,
I ako ste pod stresom,
relax a little bit more.
opustite se malo.
Go out and get some exercise.
Budite fizički aktivni.
Exercise burns off stress hormones.
Znači fizička aktivnost sagoreva hormone stresa.
In Japan, they've got a type of therapy.
U Japanu imaju jednu vrstu terapije,
Shinrin-yoku.
Shinrin-yoku.
Is taken in the atmosphere of a forest.
To je da kao da se šetate u atmosferi šume.
Get out in nature.
Idete u prirodu,
Think positively.
Mislite pozitivno.
Eat a good, healthy diet.
Jedite zdravu ishranu.
Have positive friends around you.
Imate krug pozitivnih prijatelja.
Do things that you enjoy doing.
Radite stvari u kojima uživate.
If you live in a messy environment,
Ako živite u kršu,
which can be very stressful,
što može bude jako stresno,
clean it up.
očistite.
And if you are of the mind, I recommend you pray a little bit more.
I ako vas savest nalaže, možete da se pomolite.
We have to identify our stressors.
Moramo da identifikujemo naše stresore.
I once had a stressor.
I ja sam jedanputa imao stresora.
That bird right there
Ova ptica ovde.
drove me crazy.
Izluđivala me je.
Now, it didn't sing in the daytime,
Ona nije pevala u toku dana,
but when it started to get dark,
ali kada bi bio mrak,
it woke up a little bit.
malo se probudi.
And when I turned out my light,
I kada isključim svetlo,
that's when it really started working.
ona onda tad počinje da se budi i radi.
This is what that bird sounds like.
I evo kako ta ptica zvuči.
See if you would like this.
Ajde, recite mi, da li bi se vama ovo svidelo?
You like that?
Da li vam se taj zvuk sviđa?
All night long?
Celu noć
It was driving me crazy.
vodilo me do ludila.
Somebody once counted how many times it did that.
Čak je neko brojao koliko puta ona to učini.
Counted 1,088 times
1088 puta.
before it pause a while and start again.
Pre nego što malo pauzira i počne ponovo.
That stressed me out.
To me je jako stresiralo.
Now, I had a shotgun at the time.
Ja sam imao u to vreme dvocevku.
I could never find that bird.
Nikad nisam mogao da nađem tu pticu.
I couldn't sleep.
Nisam mogao da spavam.
I was stressed all day long.
Bio sam pod stresom ceo dan.
And then I received a magazine in the mail.
I onda sam dobio jedan časopis u pošti.
It was a conservation magazine.
To je bio časopis o zaštiti životinja.
I was living in the state of Missouri in America.
Ja sam tada živio u državi Missouri u Sjedinjenim državama.
And in this magazine was an article about that very bird.
I u tom časopisu bio je članak upravo o toj ptici.
And it told me what its favorite food was.
I rečeno mi je koja je omiljena namirnica ove ptice.
And its favorite food is my worst enemy,
I njena omiljena hrana je moj najveći neprijatelj.
the mosquito.
To je komarac.
It doesn't matter what's going on outside.
I nije bitno šta god se dešava napolju,
A storm,
nevreme.
there could be shooting. I've been in places where there's shooting going on.
Ja sam bio na mestima gde ima pucnjave
Sleep like a baby.
i spao bi kao beba,
But then from the far corner of your room,
ali u najdaljem ćošku vaše sobe
you hear it coming.
vi ga čujete kako dolazi.
And you hear it getting closer and closer.
I vi ga čujete kako on dolazi sve bliže i bliže.
You can feel the wind from its wings on your cheek.
Vi možda osadite i vetar njegovih krila na vašim obrazima.
And you're laying there slowly raising your hand
I vi polako dižete ruku
until it's right there.
dok on nije tako blizu
And you smack yourself.
i udarite se.
And you hope you got it.
I vi se nadate da ste ga uhvatili.
You roll over.
Onda se okrenete drugu stranu
Here it comes again.
i opet on dolazi.
All night long.
Cijelu noć.
I hated that bird. I hated those mosquitoes.
Ja sam mrzeo te komarce.
And when I read the article about that bird,
I kad sam pročitao članak o ovoj ptici,
it never bothered me again.
nikad mi nije više smetala.
Matter of fact, I love that sound of that bird now.
U stvari, ja sada volim zvuk ove ptice.
I live in the forest right now.
Ja sada živim u šumi negde.
And I love it when they come back from their migrations in the springtime.
Ja volim kad se oni vrate svoje migracije na proleće.
Let me leave you with a thought.
I evo, ostaviću s jednom mišlju.
Get this thought in your mind.
Imajte ovu misao u vašem umu.
Some of you have heard it.
Neki ste od vas to čuli.
Lord, grant
Gospode,
me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change.
daj mi da prihvatim stvari koje ne mogu da promenim.
The courage to change the things that I can change.
Hrabrost da promenim stvari koje mogu.
And the wisdom to know the difference.
I mudrost da prepoznam razliku.
Alcohol will not change your situation.
Alkohol neće promeniti vašu situaciju.
Drugs will not change your situation.
Droge neće promeniti vašu situaciju.
When you wake up in the morning, it's all still there.
Kad se probudite opet ujutro i dalje će biti prisutno.
We have to learn to take our life as it's given to us.
Moramo da prihvatimo život onakav kakav nam je dan.
Thinking positive thoughts.
Da razmišljamo pozitivno.
Living in a healthy way.
Da živimo na zdrav način.
Getting plenty of exercise.
Da ste dosta fizički aktivni.
Forgiving others and forgiving yourselves.
Da oprostimo sebi i da oprostimo drugima.
Do that.
Učinite to.